A man stood in plain sight, right in the middle of a crowded street, surrounded by cameras, police patrols, and hundreds of people, and yet not a single person realized they were watching one of the most wanted criminals in the entire UK. No disguise that screamed criminal, no dramatic escape, no chaos. Just a calm face, a normal walk, and a plan so calculated that it left even experienced investigators confused for years. Now, imagine this. What if someone could outsmart not just one officer, not just one department, but the entire system? What if the person everyone was searching for had already figured out how the police think, how they move, and how they hunt, and used that against them? Before we go deeper into this story, make sure you hit like and subscribe to The Dark Brief, because the stories you hear here, they're not just shocking, they make you question how safe the world really is. This story isn't about a random criminal. This is about a mastermind who turned the rules upside down, someone who didn't run from the system, but played with it. It all started quietly. No headlines, no panic, just small crimes that didn't seem connected at first. Minor fraud cases, identity switches, small financial movements that raised suspicion, but nothing big enough to trigger a full investigation. It was like someone was testing the waters, slowly learning how far they could go. Weeks turned into months, and those small actions started forming a pattern. Except the pattern didn't make sense. Different cities, different identities, different methods. But one thing remained the same: precision. The police initially thought they were dealing with multiple criminals. It made sense. No single person could be in so many places, using so many identities, and staying invisible at the same time. But they were wrong, very wrong, because behind all of this, there was only one man. He wasn't loud, he wasn't reckless, he didn't crave attention. In fact, his biggest strength was staying completely unnoticed. He understood something most criminals don't. The less attention you attract, the longer you survive. And he survived longer than anyone expected. Investigators began connecting the dots when financial records started overlapping. Fake identities led to the same digital traces. Different names, but similar behavior patterns. It was like watching the same person wear different masks. That's when things escalated. A special unit was formed, surveillance increased, digital tracking tightened, every move was analyzed, every possibility explored. But here's where it gets unsettling. He already knew. Somehow, before every major move by the police, he adjusted, changed locations, dropped identities, shifted patterns. It was almost like he was watching them, the same way they were watching him. And that raised a terrifying question. Was there a leak, or was he just that smart? The deeper they investigated, the more complicated things became. This wasn't just a criminal running scams. This was someone who understood systems deeply. He knew how databases worked. He knew how identities could be built and erased. He knew how surveillance operated, and more importantly, how to avoid it. He didn't just break the law, he studied it. At one point, authorities believed they were close. They tracked one of his identities to a specific area. Surveillance teams were deployed. Cameras were monitored in real time. Officers were positioned strategically. Everything was set. And then, nothing. No movement, no activity, no suspect. It was like he vanished into thin air. But he hadn't disappeared. He was already gone, hours before they arrived. And that's when it hit them. He wasn't reacting to them. He was predicting them. Every step the police took, he had already calculated it. Think about that for a second. How do you catch someone who is always one step ahead? The media eventually got hold of the story. Headlines started appearing. Words like ghost criminal and invisible mastermind were thrown around. Public interest grew. Pressure increased. But pressure leads to mistakes. And that's exactly what investigators were hoping for. Because no matter how smart someone is, they're still human. Or at least, that's what they believed. Months passed. The case grew colder. Leads dried up. Teams changed. But one thing didn't change. He was still out there. And then something unexpected happened. A small mistake, not a big one, not something obvious. just a tiny inconsistency in one of his identities, something so small that most people would ignore it. But not this time. An analyst noticed it, a detail that didn't match previous behavior. It was subtle, but it was enough. That single detail reopened the entire investigation. They went back, reanalyzed everything, every movement, every identity, every transaction, and slowly, the picture became clearer. For the first time, they were getting close. But even then, it wasn't easy, because getting close to someone like him doesn't mean you've caught him. It just means the real game has begun. Surveillance intensified again, but this time it was different, quieter, smarter, more controlled. They didn't rush. They waited. Days turned into weeks, and then finally, a moment, a sighting, not confirmed, not guaranteed, but enough to act on. A team was deployed immediately. This time, no large operations, no obvious moves, just a few officers, blending in, and there he was, walking normally. No rush, no panic, no sign that he was being watched. The man who fooled the entire UK police was right there, within reach. But here's the thing. Catching someone like him isn't about speed, it's about timing. One wrong move, and he disappears again. The officers followed carefully, keeping distance, watching every move, waiting for the right moment, and then they moved. The arrest itself wasn't dramatic. No chase, no resistance, no chaos. Just a quiet moment where the game finally ended. Or at least, that's what it looked like. Because even after the arrest, questions remained. How did he manage to stay hidden for so long? How did he predict police movements? Did he work alone? Or was there more behind the scenes? Interrogations began. Evidence was analyzed. Digital trails were reconstructed. And what they discovered was even more disturbing than the crimes themselves. He didn't just outsmart the police, he exposed weaknesses in the system, gaps that shouldn't exist, flaws that could be used again by someone else. And that's what makes this story truly unsettling, because it's not just about one criminal, it's about what's possible. Think about it. If one person could do this, what's stopping someone else from going even further? And that's where I want you to pause for a second. What do you think? Was he just a genius criminal, or was the system not as strong as we believe? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I read them all, and I'm curious to know how you see this. And if this story made you think differently, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes the scariest stories aren't about what happened, they're about what could happen next. This is The Dark Brief, and the truth is always darker than it seems.